I worked Sonny Liston in Las Vegas. He was dealing cocaine at a hotel called the International Hotel. They're one of the tallest buildings at the time.
Sonny Liston is one of the most interesting boxers ever. Many people think Muhammad Ali didn't beat him, that the Nation of Islam, who Muhammad Ali had just converted to, put the pressure on Sonny Liston to take a fall. And for those of you that don't know about Sonny Liston, heavyweight champion, the man that Muhammad Ali took the title from, I suggest you watch the documentary because there's a few. He had quite a life. He got his start as a debt collector, possibly an enforcer for organized crime in St. Louis. He went to Missouri State Prison for, I think, armed robbery, and he was so good at boxing in prison. And Missouri isn't the only state this type of stuff happened. The 1940s, 50s, organized crime, business people could go up to parole boards and say, hey, get that guy released. Kind of harkens back to that southern way where if black people are violent with each other, it's okay as long as they're doing some productive work for the white man, because in fact some white men went and got Sonny Liston out of prison early. These were organized crime figures, and he was their guy, and he quickly rose through the ranks and became an extremely feared and dominant. I mean, he destroyed Floyd Patterson, who was a good champion. I mean, he was killing everybody. That's why it was such a big upset when Ali beat him twice. I think the first time he went down to a phantom punch. The second time he quit. He just didn't get off his stool. But DEA agent John Sutton, who I've interviewed extensively for several of my documentaries, he was one of the very first black DEA undercover agents in the early 1970s. Mr. Sutton was assigned to work Sonny Liston after Liston retired. And of course, Liston was all mobbed up. Like I said, some people say the Nation of Islam pressured him to take a fall. And that's a real interesting topic I'd like to research in depth and do that'll make a great HBO episodic show, the secret war between the Nation of Islam and Italian organized crime in the 50s, because the Nation of Islam was really the only group, at least in a few cities, that had the power on the street to stand up to the organized crime preying on the black community, which black community is one of their primary targets. Hence the reason heroin got so prevalent early, say in Harlem. That scene out of Godfather where they say we're going to keep it on the dark side of town. Those conversations really happened. Federal agents told me they heard them on wiretaps. Now, of course, the scourge of drug addiction is spread out across every demographic, but Sonny Liston was a target of the DEA and John Sutton because he was known or said to be selling 50 and 100 packs of cocaine out of a hotel room. Out of the hotel lobby where he worked. Maybe, was he working as a greeter? He had some job in Vegas, but he was also pushing packs in a hotel in Las Vegas in the late, maybe early 70s, a few years after he had retired. And, he wasn't one of those beloved ex-champions. Many people thought he had thrown the fight. And Sonny Liston OD'd, supposedly, off heroin. He's a guy who would have known a lot of secrets and then outlived his usefulness. And, it was always very mysterious as to whether he really OD'd or something else happened, and I'll let Mr. Sutton finish his tale.
And he would deal around the Keno area there. He would stay there all day dealing, just personal use amount. And if someone wanted a half an ounce, it was reported that he was a connect for a number of the Hollywood stars as well for their cocaine.
So you were sent in?
Yeah, and I went there. It was funny because when we went to the International Hotel and we paged him, we didn't see him. And then we looked up and we saw him run out of the casino, and he got into a Cadillac and he drove from the area. So the informant and I went over to his house later on that day and knocked on the door. And he let us in his house and he told us that some guy in the casino told him that the police was in there looking for him. And we asked him, well, how did you think, what would you think that? He said, well, say, when I was in the bathroom, I was doing a line with the little dude in there. We did a couple of lines and I even gave some of it away. Say, but somebody paged me, charged Sonny Liston. Said nobody in the world but the police called me. Yeah, but then we went to his house and he didn't have any. He told me about the time he'd come from Los Angeles. He scored some coke and he's on his way back on Highway 15 doing 85 miles per hour, and he had the Nevada Highway Patrol pull up behind him, and he had the coke underneath the seat. And he took the rubber contraceptives and put it in his left hand and thumbed it and broke them all and let them blow back in the wind. And according to him, when he finally pulled over and stopped, it appeared as though it had snowed on the patrolman's car. But he said the patrolman recognized him and told him to slow it down. And he said that he was a good ninja, and that everybody believed that he was a good ninja, and the N word. So it was okay there. I was supposed to go back to do a deal with him when he was found dead of an overdose, and I'm convinced that he got a hot shot because when I was negotiating with him, he was.
What were you going to buy?
I was going to buy a couple of ounces of cocaine, and he told me.
What year was
This was in the 70s. I'm trying to think, 71 or 72, maybe in 73. But he was telling me that there was a golf course located behind his house. He lived on Ottawa Way, there in Las Vegas, and that was a telephone post where he kept his stash. He had a hole there next to the telephone post. And he also said that how afraid he was of needles. He said, I'm a big mother effer, and those needles just make me buckle. So from that, I'm sure that he would not shoot himself with a needle because there are a lot, and from my experience as a medic in the service, a lot of guys who are afraid of needles sometimes faint just at the sight of a needle coming close to their vein.
You wouldn't have all of a sudden, hey, I'm going to shoot up tonight.
If he had snorted it, then that would have told me different, but he was giving it to it in the vein.
He had mentioned to you he was scared of needles.
Exactly, and that's why I'm sure he was hot-shotted.
Al Prophet, American Dope, Sonny Liston, just a taste, just a piece of a really big story, and of course boxing and organized crime and the interplay of the mafia and the Nation of Islam in the 50s and early 60s. Fascinating stuff.